Hey everyone, I'm doing something a little bit different today with my YouTube video. I usually do some sort of demonstration, or I show you something, or I'm giving you some sort of tutorial, but today I'm actually saying hello, which I think is the second time in all of my videos that I've actually talked to the camera and shown my face. So it's a little different for today. I do lots of stories and lives on Instagram, but I have not done something like this on YouTube. So this is what I'm considering to be my first educational or conversation-based video, I guess. I wanted to talk about calligraphy envelope addressing and why hiring a calligrapher is so expensive. I think people have misconceptions of calligraphers and think that it's just a job where you use your handwriting, and how hard can it be? At least that's kind of the general feedback you get from the public if they don't really understand what a calligrapher is and what they do. I'll go ahead and start with the definition of a calligrapher, which is somebody who writes in a special script or special hand with a preferred tool. Basically, that's the super generic way to define a calligrapher. I am a pointed pen calligrapher, so this is what I use. It's a pen holder with a nib on it. And I'm also left-handed, which is pretty rare for calligraphers. Most of them are right-handed, but you can do it if you're left-handed or you're right-handed. Anyway, that's a little bit of a side tangent. So like I was saying earlier, people often think, how hard can it be? You're just sitting down to write out somebody's address to send to a guest for a wedding or for a special event. Well, there's actually a lot of prep time that goes into doing envelope calligraphy or addressing wedding invitations or whatever it is that you are doing with your calligraphy. It's important to understand that there is a lot of time behind the scenes that goes into every single envelope project that you might not realize or you might not notice. So I'm just going to kind of start with the basics of what a calligrapher actually does for you. First off, you're obviously going to be discussing envelope color with the calligrapher. I've got a bunch of different colors here, some of my favorites that I've done in the past, but all of these are different, and all of these have different variations of ink color as well. So this one is a dark green with white. This is kind of a blush dusty rose with black. Here's black with white, but I've also done envelopes before, white envelopes with red ink, white envelopes with blue ink. The possibilities are really kind of endless because as a calligrapher, you learn how to custom mix ink and how to get the best ink that you're going to be using for your client. So before you even start the addressing process, a calligrapher is going to be talking to you about the style of addressing that you want on an envelope. This is either a style that you've seen and you really want them to try to do or to try to emulate, or in the most common case, you've been on their website and you've seen the styles they could do already, so you're picking a style from there. And then they're discussing with you how many envelopes you're going to need addressed, and they're also discussing with you how to set up the file that is going to have all of the addresses on it. And so you obviously have to take some time on your end to do that part of the step and part of the process. But there's actually one thing that happens when a calligrapher gets that list from you. Once you give that list to your calligrapher, they're actually going to go through it and double check for anything that looks funky or out of place. I know some calligraphers that just say, I'm taking your list as is, I'm addressing it exactly the way that you've given it to me, and then if there are errors, it's on you because you wrote it down incorrectly in the first place. But I like taking the time to actually go through the list that you've given me to then ask you questions if anything looks odd to me, because obviously I've done this a bunch of times, so I want to make sure that you have provided your guest list correctly and that there isn't any confusion or miscommunication. And I want to try to communicate with you as best as possible. Like I said, some calligraphers don't do that step, but that is a step that I do, and that's kind of something that I've worked into my prices for calligraphy envelopes. You're probably wondering, what is the normal average for calligraphy per envelope that is being addressed? Well, usually the value is around $3 to $4 per envelope. So if you have 100 envelopes, you're going to be paying anywhere from $300 to $400 to have them professionally addressed in calligraphy by a calligrapher or someone who has practiced in a beautiful script. If you are finding somebody online that does envelopes for $1, that's totally fine, but they might not be doing everything that I'm going to be talking about during the rest of the video, or they might be just starting out and possibly doing it on the side. So there's a little bit of risk there as well, depending on who you're deciding to hire. So just do your research ahead of time to kind of see people's reviews online and how other people have enjoyed their experience with them or not enjoyed their experience with them. After the calligrapher has double checked the list to make sure nothing looks out of place, and after everything has been paid for and signed, which by the way, most of the time there's going to be some kind of payment up front, and if you're working with a professional, you should be signing some kind of contract that protects not only them, but protects you as well during the entire process. And then you'll be moving into the actual creation and calligraphy phase. A lot of people don't understand how long it takes for each envelope to be addressed. I've timed myself before and my styles do vary, but it can be anywhere from 2.5 to 5 minutes or more per envelope. So if you're doing 10 envelopes in an afternoon and those envelopes take you 5 minutes each, that's 50 minutes alone spent on just those 10 envelopes. So every calligrapher has a different speed, and if they've been doing it for years, they're probably quicker than they used to be, but it's really time consuming and there's a lot of time that goes into the project. So when you think about it, if you have 100 envelopes that are being addressed and they each take 5 minutes, that's 500 minutes of work, several hours that are being spent on your calligraphy envelope order alone. And at that point, the calligrapher, once they finish addressing the envelopes, isn't actually done with the order yet because there are a couple other things that happen after that. So the thing that happens after the calligrapher is done addressing the envelopes for the first time is that he or she is either going to go through it themselves to look to see if there are any errors, or they're going to have a friend or a family member or somebody a part of the business that is proofing the envelopes for them. So you have to go through to check to see if you've made any errors, and usually there are probably 5 or 6 errors in an order of 100 envelopes. That's pretty average to have about 5 or 6 mess ups. So those have to be redone. So once that's taken care of and all of those have been finished, the calligrapher is going to go through them one more time, double check on the address list that you sent her or him to make sure that everything has been covered. And then they're going to spend time organizing all of the envelopes, probably in the order that was given to them on the list, and they're going to be taking time to safely package these to have them sent back to you if they're being shipped. And that honestly it's part of the fun for me to package them up really beautifully, so that way you get a wonderful surprise when you receive your calligraphy order. But when you think about it, the order's broken down into way more than just I'm sitting down and addressing your envelopes. It's actually broke up into the inquiry and consultation stage, the booking and the contract signing and the payment stage, and then there's the next round of kind of the inspiration, making sure we're on the same page, making sure you're getting the style that you want and the color that you want, all of the hours that go into the addressing, the time that goes into the proofing, and then the organizing and the shipping. So when you add it up, there is about, you know, what I had said earlier, the 500 hours, or the 500 minutes, excuse me, that were spent alone. So several hours that were spent on the actual addressing, but there's probably another 6 hours plus on top of that that were spent on other things for the order as well. So if you're paying $450 for a calligraphy order, which is pretty standard depending on how many envelopes that you have in your order, think about it if you were to break it down hourly. Let's just say 9 hours of work goes into that $450 order. that would be $50 an hour, which for a calligrapher, for a specialized vendor, is absolutely reasonable, because that vendor and that small business person is not going to be making all of those $50, if that makes sense. Not all those $50 per hour is going to them, because it's going to taxes, it's going to expenses and fees and other things that need to be taken care of in the business before they're given their paycheck. So let's say they have a 50% of what they make is actually overhead costs, then they're only getting $25 an hour. And then you have to think too in terms of making a livable wage and all of that. This is probably a super long explanation, but hopefully I've been kind of like friendly and open about it as a calligrapher, why we charge the way we do, or why it's pretty standard to see envelopes that are $3.50 each. And that's just one guest envelope, because once you get into doing inner and outer envelopes, the outer envelope might cost $3 and the inner envelope might cost $1.50. And then if you're having a return address written on the back as well, that could be another $1. So these things add up on top of each other. And the $3.50 per envelope, or whatever it is that that calligrapher is charging, is going towards so much more than actually writing the address on the envelope. It's going towards all different parts of the process. So when you think about how much you're actually getting from a calligrapher and how much they are giving you, and what a specialized service it is, it's actually really not that terrible of a deal. That being said, sometimes it is more affordable and more feasible for people to either address the envelopes on their own or have a family friend do them, or somebody who has great handwriting. Obviously, hiring a calligrapher is not for everybody, and I'm not trying to make the point that it is. I'm just trying to explain why calligraphers do have to price the way they do for their work. So hopefully that's kind of made a little bit of sense, and if you have any questions about what I talked about, I know it might have come across as a little bit rambly, just make sure to drop your comments below and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. Thanks so much, have a great day.